Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Look, I think strike rate's very, very overrated.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strike Rate, the Cricket Analytics podcast, where we're celebrating our 10th episode. So we thought, as a special treat, we would bring on a guest. He's a guy who had a 20-year career, or 20-plus year career as a pro, represented his country, played at a World Cup, and then made a successful move into coaching, both in county cricket and in franchise tournaments. And, most relevantly to us, has actual experience working with Dan Weston at Leicestershire over a number of years. We're delighted to welcome to the podcast Paul Nixon. Paul, thanks for joining us. How are you getting on?
Really well, thanks. Yeah, pleasure to be on the Strike Rate. Finally a guest. Yeah, so delighted. Yeah, nice to see you both again, and nice to see Dan after his hospitalisation and a big op. So great to see him looking so well. So happy days.
Honestly, I think as a first guest, it couldn't be much better. We've got somebody who actually did work with Dan. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about Paul's experience as a coach, working with a county, working with a small county as well, and the challenges that came up there. And a bunch of other stuff as well. Before we get into that, though, just a quick reminder to make sure you're subscribing and following Strike Rate on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. And you can find myself or Dan on Twitter. I'm Jack Hope Zero, and Dan is at SA Advantage. So on this podcast, like I said, we've got a lot to get to, but I thought we'd start with something a little bit more personal. And we'll go back to the beginning of your relationship with Dan, I think, Paul. How did you start working with Dan, and can you remember what your first impressions were sitting down with Mr. SA Advantage?
Great question. We'd had a bit of banter on social media, and I'd watched what Dan was about. I saw his attention to detail, and I liked the way he challenged people as well, which is really healthy. I think challenging every environment is really healthy, because it brings out a lot of honesty, and it makes people, it makes people aware of what's happening and other things to look for in life. So that was nice. We clicked really well because we were both passionate about winning and success. So from then on, we struck a close relationship because we felt like we could be really open with each other and challenge each other, like I say. And Dan would ask me from a cricketing point of view, and I would ask him from the stats point of view. So it was a nice mix.
Dan,
yeah, you know that as well. Yeah, because I think that a lot of people, if they heard me and Nico talking to each other like back in the day, they probably wouldn't understand that actually we're actually really close. Like we would really robustly challenge each other sometimes. But I think at all points we always knew that it was coming from the best place, and we both just wanted success for the team that we were working for at that point in time, and we were just going to leave no stone unturned, really, in that quest. And I think that, as Nico says, challenge is amazing. It's if you can incorporate the best of various different advantages, backgrounds, and different skill sets and stuff like that. I think it's really, really powerful. And I think, yeah, we can talk about that, how that's kind of transferred into recruitment and stuff over a couple of years as well.
Because what helped me was, being out the game for a couple of years, been doing franchises around the world, to come back into county cricket. There's so many. The turnover these days of the younger players is so much more than it ever was. When I started and the guys started in the late 80s, early 90s, it was you were at a club for 4 or 5 years minimum, probably more like 6 years to have an opportunity. There was no academies then. There was an established first team, and the youngsters would come in through playing well in one-day cricket, generally enforcing their way in. So you had to score, as a keeper, batsman, or a batter, you had to score half a dozen, if not 8, 9, 10 hundreds in the second team to even get noticed in the first team. So Dan really, fast forwarded the information for us, and the reach, the far reach that he got of factual evidence was just, you can't turn that away. So having that factual evidence in front of you to make decisions on players that are going to play both formats is crucial. Strike rates, to know where the likes of Virat Kohli was when he was younger, Joe Root, Jimmy Anderson, to know where those guys were, to then have benchmarks against your players is fantastic. So it excites me because that really helps your vision, and that supports the decision making that you're going to make.
So you're talking there about your first impressions of Dan and how you had a robust relationship and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit about how that relationship developed? And obviously it starts off with him, I guess, getting your attention on social media somehow, and then you work with him over a number of years. Towards the end of that relationship, what is it you go to Dan for, and what is it that he's providing for you as a coach?
Evidence. I look at a player and I see a player. Dan will even, he'll bring players to me and say, Nico, have a look at this guy. What do you think of this guy? He's 360. He can be in so many areas of white ball cricket. Strike rates are good. Boundary percentages are good. Dot ball percentages are good. Takes pressure off batsmen either end. Or he might be a dummy left-hander. So it might be a right-hander who scores magnificently over cover, over the offside, against the ball turning away, whether that's left-arm spin or leg spin to a right-hander, for instance. So bringing that information helps the balance of your side. It helps whether or not you've, against any matchups in white ball cricket, which there can be a lot of. So, which has been talked about now for a while, and actually people have got onto that, and actually, the stats and the science has moved on from that. So, it was just helps the balance of your side, and again, what it does as well, it shapes the winter practice. We looked at when Dan came, when I got Dan into Leicestershire to help fast forward our learning, and give me some evidence about what opposition were doing to us, the reports that he was writing, the reports that were brutally honest about which players right in each condition and each position. So it really helped our selection. It really gave us a much more accurate and precise base to make good decisions. It helped us. It helped us a lot because we were always. I think there's only last year really where Leicestershire we had a poor year, and to be fair, we had issues with our overseas pros. One was arriving late. We had 2 death bowlers ultimately. One arrived late because he was in the IPL, and Vian Mulder was injured. So we need Leicestershire as a club. The smaller clubs, with respect, need everything to go well. You need your overseas pros to be world class. That's what you're paying them for, to be match winners, and everybody else hopefully wins a game along the way. So it allowed us to really focus in on our winter preparation. We noticed that teams had bowled, I think it was 20% more spin against us than any other county.
Ball turning away from the right hander, wasn't it?
Yeah, ball turning away. So, that was a massive month and a half, 2 months in the winter where the guys really immersed themselves in left arm spin for a while, getting close to the season. So had the bowling machines out, we had different challenges, we had different surfaces they were batting on. and real good conversations between, Rehan Ahmed with Callum Parkinson, youngsters coming through out the academy, trialists who would get in, left-arm spinners, which helped our practice. So, Uday, young left-hander that Dibs Patel brought in out of the leagues, who played for his club team. So it was really nice to have that really specific practice that we need to improve on. And, being brutally honest, there's so much you were doing as head coach. Sometimes you can miss things. And that's you've got a lot of people to chat, and there's a lot of things you do, a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, a lot of team building, a lot of teamwork, and overseas pros to work on and to think about. So actually, to have that knowledge that somebody goes, actually, I think there's a bit of a weak area here. Let's look into it at a deeper level, and all of a sudden, then it smashes you in the face to go, wow, I've actually got to remodel our practice in here, because for us to win and be a little bit more consistent in key moments, it had to be done. So yeah, delighted.
It's really interesting actually, because I feel like there's probably two key points here. I mean, Jack, obviously on this podcast series, generally we've talked a bit about data in terms of recruitment and player evaluation and things like that. But here we're talking about, well, Nico's clearly mentions here about how we've used the analytics side of things to actually improve our own players as well, and to make them aware of maybe a group deficiency against a certain type of bowler that then form as winter training plans for us to get better moving forward. And I think that's a really, really important, especially in county cricket when you're with players for the vast majority of the year. It's difficult in franchise cricket when you're there for a few weeks to really work on that sort of stuff. You've got to hit the ground running, and you don't really have a lot of time for sort of technical stuff or long-term practice. But with county cricket, I really do think you can do that for sure. And I think that's a really, really massive point for that what we can bring as a combo, basically, what we've done, what we've worked together on.
And the players have got to have a capacity to change. The players have got to want it. But actually, when the players see the evidence, then it's very powerful to them. When they see themselves in action, you look at some video footage, you look at the numbers, they don't lie. So, A, it's going to help the team, but B, the player has got to be very honest with himself, and you can have some, very brutal conversations. The nice thing is within sport, you have very honest, open conversations, because yes, they're a team player, but it's about them making change, and they've got to drive it, and the player's got to lead that sustained focus on a new skill.
And also, I think as well, I'd be interested to hear your views on this, but I feel like the more honest you are with players, the more they know that they know that you've got their back, because they know that you're not going to talk behind their back. That you're going to be open with them, and they know that you want to help them. I think that's really critical as well. Yeah, well, that's
hardest working, most caring environment. They're my sort of strap lines that I want from teams. So hardest working, most caring. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be honest, and we're going to move forward. We'll challenge you and support you along that journey. So as long as they give, we'll always be there for them. And I think that any successful environment, whether it's work, business, or sport, you have to have that. The primary dynamics have to have that.
Dan, from your point of view, can you talk a little bit about how your analytics meshes with Nico's cricketing perspective on things? Because I think a lot of people will be really interested in hearing that side of things as well. I think there's, just to elaborate on that a little bit further, there's a little bit of a cliche that there are nerds with a spreadsheet, and then there are like true cricket men, if you like, and there's a war between the two. But that's not necessarily what we're hearing here. And not to label you as a true cricket man, Nico, unless that's what you want to be, of course. But can you give us some insight, Dan? Can you give us some insight from the analytical point of view?
Yeah, 100%. So look, I think that sometimes you're right. It is created as a bit of a them against us kind of perspective, but actually. What I found with working with Nico, and actually some other really good coaches as well, is that it's more powerful when you can work in conjunction with each other. So I mean, we can talk to Nico a bit about this, about how when he was playing, how probably things were different. The opinion of one coach probably did have a lot more weight and could potentially make or break a player's career. Whereas now there's a little bit more evidence-based discussion. And from my perspective as well, I want to tap into someone's knowledge. If you've played professional cricket for over 20 years and played at the highest level, then you probably know a few things about the game. So actually we can look at certain things from different perspectives, but then if they marry up, it's really, really powerful. So, I mean, like one example that I like in terms of the way that we've looked at things was Naveen, when we brought him into Leicester. And the data was positive on him, very positive on him. And he fitted everything in terms of the sort of phase usage and the skills that he could offer from a numbers point of view. But then Nico watched a lot of him as well. You were aware of him and you watched a lot of the way he bowled and his action. And you thought that he would have a real sight unseen advantage against batters who have never faced anything like that type of bowler before from an action point of view as well. So actually was like a double tick, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I watched it on TV and I saw him. He's the only guy that ever saw made Chris Gayle couldn't hit the ball. The delay in his action, the wrist was so good. His slow balls are so clever. Often he double bluff with his fields at the right times. And I just wanted some reassurance with Dan that actually, had he got lucky a couple of times, or actually, is this guy world class? Is he a seriously high performing player that's going to be consistent? And Dan backed that up massively, and it was just a perfect match.
And I think it's also important for the listeners to realise that this was back in start of 2021. So this was like not Naveen, the IPL player, in terms of reputation. This was his first. I think it was his first overseas T20 comp at this point. So we were really looking to discover untapped talent, if you like. We did that. We were the first team. Josh Inglis, his an overseas T20 contract. We done the same with Gerber couldn't come obviously before, and then before I was there, you did that with Mohammed Abbas. Obviously, the club couldn't keep hold of him and went to Hampshire.
We're going to get the South African fast ball as well, won't we? The South African quick went to IPL. No, Andre was I can never pronounce it. Nokia.
Yeah. So we had good players on our radar, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
So if we talk about this relationship in a little bit more detail, Nico, what are you looking for from Dan, bigger picture here, to provide over the course of a season? So you gave a couple of examples about training plans and stuff like that, but this in your year-long calendar, where does Dan's role fit in from January through to December, let's say?
Well, yeah, it's more than that. It's several times a week talking about players, talking about our own guys, talking about ideas, late night conversations when the missus has gone to bed and I'm talking to Dan till midnight, past midnight, many times. Dogs on our laps. Dan's dog's a bit bigger than mine, but yeah, dogs on our laps. The odd treat to keep them quiet in the evenings, and just talking about, you know, where can we get the extra few percent here and there in each phase. In each phase of white ball cricket, where do we get an extra inch? Where do we make some big gains? Where are the best teams who are winning? What are their strike rates in the first 20 balls? How many wickets are people taking? How many dots are they getting? Where can we squeeze opposition and win 8 balls, 10 balls more in a match? That makes a difference.
Yeah. I remember the COVID year. We would talk at 2 o'clock in the morning when you get back from like an away game or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it would be like, well, you got home and you know, obviously everyone's gone to bed. Everyone's gone to bed in my house, but we're still like chatting off the game because we wanted to kind of have that sort of debrief.
Yeah,
didn't we?
and we have you debrief. Obviously, we have a debrief with the players. We have a debrief with the coaching staff after that as well. So you know, late nights after a game, anybody that plays, you know, club cricket or whatever in the evenings, they're buzzing for a while. You know, when we're playing and it's important, it's people's livelihoods and it's work and it's everything. You know, we care a lot and we give a lot, and it's, you know, it's a lot of late nights. There's a lot, you know, some nights we've got 4 hours, 5 hours sleep and we're back up and at them again, and that's how it should be. So when you want to win, the organisation, you've got to put a lot in. So a lot of late night calls, a lot of honesty, a lot of soul searching, a lot of positivity, a lot of happiness. You have everything. And, you know, you learn to work together as well. You know, we went away, Dan, didn't we? We went away. Stewie Law was head coach in the Bangla Tigers in the T10 in Abu Dhabi, and we'd never been away together. So that was great learnings for us about how each other works, about you know, as a sort of a batting coach, fielding coach, I was then in my role then to Stewie Law as the head coach. So Dan came in as well. So it was great learnings. We just got to know each other. It's easy on a telephone call like this, but when you're living in the Big Brother house under the pressure of an exciting format, it's very different when emotions are high. So it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, and we learned a lot about each other's mindset.
Definitely. I mean, I was probably spending time with you and Canal over there was probably like actually the highlight of the trip for me. You know, like that was just brilliant, fantastic. The amount of strategy we chatted about as a trio was awesome. Just for context, Canal's the Knots and Train Rockets analyst as well, who Nico taught to swim as well over there. So
great man.
It's like
I can't swim.
Is that right?
Oh, really?
No, I can't swim. So
in the weird trip.
This shows you like the human side of stuff that goes on in like franchise cricket as well as just the stuff that people see on TV as well, you know?
Yeah, and with the franchise as well, there's so many different ages thrown together. You know, we had young Will Smead at one end of the spectrum, and you've got, you know, Faf du Plessis, Andre Russell at the other end of the spectrum, you know, in different teams and comps. So there's young and old together in hotels, and you try and have conversations with opposition and how did you feel against our guy and what were your thoughts? And you know, experienced campaigners like Benny Howell, who was outstanding, who was a brilliant professional. Seeing him, you know, really so focused, where he'd spend hours with Dan. I want to know exactly what people's movements were. What was the first movement that Chris Gale did? Did he go across the stumps? Does he give himself room? Does he bat deep? How do I block him up? Where is his most dots? Where's his lowest strike rate? In what zone of his areas that he bats? If he was a mannequin almost, or in his stance, where is he in each position? You know, so watching different professionals, you know, really search hard for match winning strategies was really, you know, really nice from a coach's point of view to see those guys getting hold of it and really owning it, which is what you want.
Yeah. So if we talk about some of those short formats, then, like in the modern day, how critical do you think being strong on data is for a player and for a coach? Like, what is the importance of analytics, do you reckon?
Analytics give you a brilliant. They just give you true data of where everything is, and it's then. And we had an interesting one where Dan was like, Nico, bouncers aren't good at Grace Road. They're not good at Grace Road because they only knows where I'm going here. It only goes. You only take one wicket every don't know how many 100 balls, and I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's good data, but we all know that a fantastic bouncer stops batsmen getting forward and sometimes gets them stuck on the crease. And actually, it's the balls after that matter because you get into somebody's mindset. So we looked at wickets after bouncers, and obviously, and all of a sudden the numbers then went higher. So that's the great advantage of an honest relationship. And cricket in Nouse, and Dan, is always happy to learn, our game, and I'm always happy to learn Dan's game in a way. So 100%. that's the nice, dovetail that you want.
Yeah, and the fact that both of us are willing enough to listen to each other's experience and different perspective, and also I like it when a coach like Nico used to do this a lot with me, is that he would ask questions and then he'd have a theory that was not quantified, but he'd ask me for the data to back up that theory for a game plan or work on a certain player or something like that. And when the numbers, invariably 9 times out of 10, they probably would agree with the coach, but that's just so good in terms of giving us confidence that we're on the right path.
Yeah. And to have players come back to you, or that we won today because of this, and we should have got through the finals a couple of years on the bounce where we tied with Notts. We beat Notts at home, then we tied with them away. And a couple of lapses probably cost us that day, but it is what it is. With no overseas pro, Notts a big team, a lot of good players, some big wages. And, we did our homework well and we executed really well apart from a couple of small little bits. And, it's satisfying. And it was nice in a way that game against Notts in the quarter final, the T20 away in front of a packed house at Trent Bridge, after beating them at home brilliantly and then going there and doing that, and actually we should have won and they knew we should have won, it gave the guys great belief. And every team needs to have games. Manchester United won so many games in the last minute, more than anybody else to a certain extent, I would say, and that gives you belief. Once you've done it, it gives you belief, true belief. And I look at Jurgen Klopp now. I've got a good pal of mine, Phil Holiday, who works at Liverpool Football Club, and Jurgen Klopp's got, I think, the most analytics of any football team. So he's getting that data, and it's just massive support, and it helps with ambition. It helps with everybody's ambitions, players and coaches, and the club's ambition.
On the kind of flip side to that, did you? I'm sure this must have happened at points in your career, have players that were kind of resistant to the numbers, and when that happened, were you kind of okay with that, or did you have to try and bring them round in a way?
Yeah, good question. There's certainly one or two who were. I don't want to mention names on here, but there's certainly one or two that were a little bit more. Well, it's not really for me. Which you have to respect that to a certain extent, unless there is, if you don't move your feet early, for instance, you get LB and you play across it in the first 4 or 5 innings, then I'm going to come to you and I'm going to go, listen, what do you think? You have to have their opinion. They've got it and they say, yeah, maybe you were right. Okay, right. Well, let's have a look at it. So this is what we found. So I think in the end, people do come around because ultimately they want to maximize their own abilities as well. So some people dive in longer. There's different characters in every different characters in every team. Some people are very task orientated, the high reds, the people that are quite punchy, quite aggressive, I'm right all the time, and then they reflect afterwards out of the team environment alone. Then there's the big communicators. Which is where I fit in. Then there's the sort of secret, quiet ones who sit at the back of the class who know the answer but don't say anything. They want to just make sure it's right, have a little bit more structure about it. They're a bit more people orientated. like the communicators, a bit more people orientated. They want to make sure they won't jump in with a decision, so they'll take longer to make that decision. Then you've got the sort of the high blues. The blues don't want to make mistakes. Very analytical. They'll ask why. They'll challenge non-stop. They'll read every bit of data. So everybody's a little bit different, and you've got to respect their decisions. You've got to respect where they are as people, and we know that because we do profiling. So we know who to send a 1-pager to, who to give a 5 lines to, and who to give a 26-page document to on profiling and on their stats. So that's a leadership challenge, but it's one that's rewarding, because when you get the results and you do well and you win trophies, then it's worth it.
So when it comes to dealing with players, I look at it a bit like how you might deal with a child who doesn't like vegetables, basically. Like, you make like a spaghetti bolognese or something, and you might throw a load of carrots in it because they won't notice or something like that. And I think that actually you can do that with players a lot as well. Like, I actually had a conversation with someone the other day about it. They asked me to do a load of work in terms of sort of prep work and stuff. And what they wanted to try and do was portray it as like not a numbers-based task, but essentially driven by the numbers, if that makes sense. And I think that's definitely how a good analyst-coach relationship can work, in terms of, like, I might say to Nico, this guy's doing this, and this, but we need him to stop doing this and to do more of that, or something like that. And here's the numbers. So we might have that private conversation about the player's numbers. And then he might go and communicate that to a player, but not use data at all. But the whole conversation is founded on the data to start with, giving the coach the evidence that he knows that he can go in there with confidence, knowing that he's right, and then maybe talk about it from a technical perspective rather than battling some of the numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it might be Colin Ackerman, for instance, who's a fantastic offside player. So for Ackers to against the ball turning away, against the ball turning in. So he goes through the offside a lot more. So actually, talking to him about maybe batting leg stump or just outside leg stump to access his areas a bit more is still Dan's data, but it helps us as coaches tweak without doing anything major with him, because he might be away all winter and then come back literally 3 or 4 days before the start of the season. So you can't go too technical then. It's time to do that, at the end of the season, where somebody else who's could have had a full winter working on the ball going away with reverse sweeps and hitting out over cover, moving their feet behind themselves to align themselves with the right angles, watching a bit of world-class footage from the likes of Ian Bell, who was very good at that, or Virat Kohli, who's good at that. So, you bring that in together, have a look at it, look at themselves. So it's built up. There's a whole picture that gets built, and then you go for it. It's not just, right, this is what we're doing, let's go. There has to be, some working together and some openness and some honest conversation about it first.
So to go back to Dan's analogy about vegetables, it's like putting loads of tomato ketchup on someone's peas to help them go down.
Sounds like introducing all the mushroom. Oh, sorry, not the mushrooms. That's to come. All of the the ginger shots and the beetroot shots.
Yeah,
boys having breakfast in the mornings. So yeah, it's a bit like that. There's a few strange faces at first, but eventually they come round.
If we move on to a couple more general questions about being a head coach. Now, I think this is actually quite an interesting one, because I love cricket. I do 2 cricket podcasts. I watch 5-6 games a week sometimes. But I don't know if I could give like a proper job description for what a head coach at a county would do. Can you enlighten me in a couple of minutes? Like, what does a head coach do? Like, what? And I suppose, like, what's in the job description and what isn't in the job description, but you have to do it anyway?
Great question, crikey. What's in the job description? Have a vision, have a mission, have some objectives, short, medium, and long-term objectives. Bring the team together to, their behaviours, their values. You shape. I think the leader of any organisation shapes that organisation. The leaders set the tone, whatever they do, and you're a man manager, you're a facilitator, you're everything. You're a father figure. You're their best fan, their biggest fan. You're their biggest critic. You're all that in one, and you bring together a backroom staff that you trust, or hopefully you trust, and you work with them on an hourly basis. You're in the Big Brother house, and it's the phone's never off in the evenings, and you work together, and you've all got the drive and the fight and the tenacity and the sustained focus to bring success. You work with with the Pathway team and the Pathway coaches, their academies, second team coach. You work with those guys about what's coming through, about you look at where your senior players might be coming out of contract, or your certain players might be coming out of contract. You make sure that you've got a nice plethora of guys coming in behind to challenge. So it's non-stop. There's always something to do, and it's a great challenge. And you love looking forward to every day, because every day's got so much to it, and it can change a lot. But it's satisfying when you bring in players, or you sign players, or you work with players, and they really grow as people and grow as really good professionals and consistent professionals who perform under pressure in critical moments.
Yeah, I remember there would have been times at Leicester, particularly in our early days there, when there wasn't, you were basically doing everything, weren't you? Like, you would get in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be doing a net session with a batter, or keeping session with Swinney, or something like that, and then there would be at 11 o'clock at night, we might be prepping for the next game, or doing recruitment chats or something like that. Like, it literally would never stop for you. I mean, there was times I was like, how do you even do this? Honestly, it was quite.
You certainly need a very understanding other half. So I was very lucky. My missus knows how much it matters to me and how much I care about people and the game. So it's you just work collaboratively. Everybody's got to work together as one, and it takes everybody. You want your batting coaches, your bowling coaches, your strength and conditioning coaches play a huge role now. Physios keeping everybody in the park. The data that they bring, not only the data that Dan brings. You've got the GPS in the backs, knowing how what people's bodies have been through, where they are in their injury concerns. Green, amber, red, with volumes, with workloads. So it's a whole balance, especially when you've got if you have a smaller squad, or where injuries are concerned, how much you push players and what you can get out of it. The planning meetings, there's a lot of planning involved. There's a massive, every session needs planning, every single session, whether it's planning of the backroom staff, to the agendas of meetings, to where we are, to our overseas, to who we're going to look at, the trialists, who they are, when they're coming in, what time they're coming in, who they're going to bowl to. You try and maximize every session all the time. And it's tough. It's tough to do, but that's where you need your groundsmen, and you need your guys who look after the nets to be with you. And if you can get, rather than one net, have two. If you can have three and split one in half, we talked about with the guys. Can we fit a bowling machine in somewhere to guys get a bit more volume? And just always looking and always striving. Can we look at different surfaces in the nets to where we're going to play in the middle? Can we make it turn a bit more, or are we going to, can we get some, help with the marketing team at some stage to go and do some marketing things, because we need some more money into the club to go and speak at a dinner, or whatever it may be, to help a sponsor. That
might just be a flight for an overseas player or something like that. Like it literally can be that, hand to mouth.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've gone to a couple of guys. We had a guy at Leicestershire who's an amazing guy. Well, we had 2 or 3 amazing people. David Wilson from David Wilson Homes. David was our president, and he actually kept the club going. Amazing guy. Mahmuda, our chairwoman, Mahmuda, helped keep the club going. Amazing people. We had a guy, Pete Freer, who sold a company in the 80s, early 90s, and I would chat with Pete. Nico, what you up to? Well, I'd love to go away, Pete. We'd love to go to Desert Springs, and we can't afford it this year, or whatever it may be. And he'd be like, listen, how much do you need? And I'd be like, Pete, we need a few grand, blah, blah, blah. And he'd go, hey, let me see what I can do. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, they helped you and supported you. And that makes a massive difference. So, the role was, it's a big role. And that's why, it's when you see people win a game, when you see people being successful, and sometimes you lose, but actually you win within that game. Whether it's one of your youngsters coming through, whether it's, one of the guys delivering that they've worked on something for weeks and weeks and finally had the confidence to play a reverse sweep or walk at a seam and hit him straight over his head, or ramp him. Somebody comes out and ramps. Brilliant. Chris Wright worked so well on his batting a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden, first game a couple of years ago, Leicestershire, we beat Yorkshire away, and Wrighty got a brilliant innings to help win the game. And it's little things like that wins within wins, which give you a lot of satisfaction as a coach in any football, cricket, rugby, hockey, netball, whatever it may be.
Can we talk about
through and stuff like that as well? It's like young players coming through as well. Like those wins is massive. And I remember as well, like there was that last year we did together in 2022 in T20. I remember we played Durham at Grace Road, the first game of that comp. Do you remember Ashton Turner? He had some luck, didn't he? He was top edging everything for 6 and stuff. And actually, like, because of the metrics that I had for that game, I think Durham won by like 50 runs or something. On paper, it looked like a really easy win for them. But actually, we bowled well. We just batted poorly at certain stages of the innings. And the underlying metrics would actually say, we should have lost by about 10 runs, not 50 runs. So sometimes like that can help us not overreact to a big defeat and actually take a lot more positives out of what a lot of the supporters would have thought was a bit of a pasting. Actually, we've got 5 positives here that actually we know that if we're going to play like that throughout the season, we'll be all right. And which turned out, I knew that points deduction was what prevented us from getting into the knockout stages, and when we should, that will haunt me forever that season.
Yeah, we were having won it 3 times, and being in 5 finals as a player. We were on a massive roll. We just won the last 5 or 6 games on the bounce. Yeah, we're on fire. We're on fire, like we were on fire when we were winning, and would have done well. The skill diversity was just working perfectly. Everybody knew their roles, had clarity, things had gelled. Everybody had trust in everybody else's game and their own games. And we were in emotional control was brilliant in the key moments. Frustrating, but it is what it is, isn't it? Keep shaping.
Yeah, we won that year. One run against Northants to set up that qualification, and then that's when we got the points deduction afterwards, wasn't it? With Neesham. And then beat Yorkshire home and away, and then like they end up qualifying after the last game because the points deduction put through at like 1 day's notice, didn't it? And and like they looked like they all knew that the better team didn't qualify that year. I think it's fair to say. And we won that game at Trent Bridge as well when we defended like 150 odd. Benny Mike, I think, got some runs, and we defended that easily. Like that was the time I knew that our bowling attack and the plans that we had were as good as anybody's really in the country at that point.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about the difference then, maybe between doing what you've talked about there at a big county and at a small county? I mean, obviously Leicestershire, this is no secret, they're not Surrey to pick a team at the other end of the spectrum. So your role as head coach at Leicestershire, you've outlined it well, I think. What's the guy at Surrey doing? Is it a completely different job in comparison, or is it just the same stuff, but there's a little bit more cash in the back pocket?
Well, Stewie has always got a better suntan than I ever had. I know that. With pre-season tours. I'm a bit brown now from a T10 in the lovely Sri Lanka that I've come back from a few days ago. But pre-season tours, players going away consistently, clubs paying for players, looking after their players really well. That all helps massively, from everything, from just hotels, from hotels. We've had to travel from a long way away because the hotels might be very expensive wherever we're staying. In London, it might be very expensive, so I might just stay out of London. Or Brighton, at a certain time, maybe the rooms are £250 a room. We can't afford that with all those people going down there. So we've had it where we haven't taken the strength and conditioning guy away on away trips because we haven't had the funds. We could save a few £1,000s from that not happening. So 4 nights or 5 nights away in a hotel for somebody in a single room, their meal money, their travel money or meal money, for instance, that adds up over so many games, and that makes a difference. That might be another bucket of balls for the indoors, a new bowling machine for the indoor school in the winter. It might be some more equipment for us. So every action has a reaction with the smaller clubs. So but it's good because it helps you as a coach. It makes you manage your return of investment on everything, on a player and on every budget that you have.
Dan, from your point of view, obviously this must have been quite a big part of your role then. Like, you've got to recruit and you've got to make that money go a little bit further than at a team where maybe you can buy 2 guys, and find out which one's better later. You've got to get it right straight away. Does that put more pressure on you, or do you have to think about it in a different way? Obviously you do. But how do you think about it in a different way?
So I think ultimately, when people talk about this at Brighton in football, and it's a bit cliche, but it's kind of true at the same time. We got to make £1 that we spend equivalent to £2 that not spent, basically, to look at from a Leicester versus Notts perspective. Now I'm at Kent, you might look at it from a Kent v Surrey perspective instead. Very, very similar, actually. You've got to make that money work for you. I mean, I can't talk about how much we pay players, obviously, but I think if people knew what the deals that we were getting, they would be actually pretty overwhelmed. Yeah, how cost effective we did things. In terms of pressure, I don't think really, because one, it was never an individual decision, and that's something that I think is really important. So we might have a few people on a group who would all we would get to a consensus in some way, shape, or form. It would never be he says this, we're going to do this. So there wasn't that individual pressure, and also I always felt that with Nico, we had such a good relationship where we could be honest with each other. There would never be that individual pressure or a blaming thing so much afterwards as well. And I think so having that relationship, I think, is really important. So no, I mean, there wasn't pressure, but I knew that, we had to get it right. Of course, we needed to. If we did the same things as Notts when we were at Leicester, we're going to lose because Notts have got more money than us and they can buy more proven players. Basically, they're not going to worry too much about dropping a flight on another overseas player when someone pulls out at short notice or gets injured. Whereas at Leicester, that could, or even some of the other counties who are not Test match ground teams, that's a big consideration sometimes. And £5,000 for a business class return flight from Australia or something like that, actually, you might not have that in your budget to do that. These are the considerations that you've got to make. So we've got to make every pound work for us, and we've got to work out which players in the marketplace represent the best value for the club at that point in time.
And then one final one, I think, on different roles. Nico, obviously you've done your stuff at Leicestershire. You also were pretty successful over in the CPL in a franchise comp. That must be a completely different ball game to what we're talking about running a county. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Yeah,
you're in the sort of the tumble dryer washing machine razzmatazz of things are spinning. You've got owners coming in expecting to win because they've all put money towards it. You've got the players want to do well, feeling a bit of pressure because they've been paid decent money for a few weeks' work. They all feel like they're under pressure to perform. So ultimately, I find it's about creating a good vibe straight away. It's about having fun. It's about getting people relaxed, making people be their authentic selves, having a bit of fun, and almost bringing it down, not dialing it up. Because county cricket day in, day out, you've got to keep dialing it up. You've got to keep dialing it up. Where in these big competitions, you've got to bring it down. So, yeah, CPL was amazing vibe, a brilliant competition, some world-class players on some good pitches, some small boundaries at times, and just a really well-run organisation. And yeah, Damien, who runs it all and owns it, was outstanding in what they produced. And yeah, I was so lucky that Michael Holding, I spoke to Michael Holding about it, and he said that Jamaica were looking for someone, would he be interested? And I just come out of the game and I jumped at the chance. And, you know, world-class players like Chris Gale and Sangakkara, Murli, Dale Staines, you know, Andre Russell, you know, Vernon Philander, Imad Wazim, Shakib Al-Hassan, world-class names over 3 years that we had. For those guys, it's about, you know, what do they want? What do they want? You know, you're not working with a young player and challenging and supporting. It's about what do they want in their game? What do they want you to look for? Anything. I remember working with Sangha, and I was obviously, as a left-hander, I'd watched Sangha and played against Sangha many times and loved watching him bat. Always wanted him to get 25 and then get out, because you want to see a couple of amazing cover drives and a clip off the legs as a keeper up close, but you never wanted to get a match-winning 100 because your team would lose. So seeing those world-class players up front, how they went about their game, and Sangha was just getting caught at point. He was a bit late in his movements. I thought he was late in his movements, didn't say anything, watched him for a while, had a few chats in practice about where he wants to be at point of release. And his front foot hadn't quite touched down and been ready. So we discussed that and show him a couple of videos of where he was. And all of a sudden, bang, he clicks. Next thing, 50, 50, 50 on the bounce. World-class performances and helped us win competitions. So, yeah, great fun. But again, it was about the vibe rather than the actual you know, individuals, just supporting individuals really as a coach in that instance. Unless somebody's really struggling and out. The biggest thing is in those competitions, I believe, is actually working with the guys on days off who aren't playing, or coming in early on the guys who are your 12th man, your 13th, your 14th, 15th, 16th player who are not getting the game, they're not in the side, making sure they're getting great practice so that they are ready when to come in and they hit the ground running. So that's the biggest thing I think in franchise cricket.
Yeah, no, you're
cool.
Nick's on, like the charisma that he has as an individual really helps in those short time space tournaments. In terms of getting everyone together, he's good for team morale and bonding and stuff like that. And he's right as well. Is that I remember one of the things that struck me when we were in Abu Dhabi for T10 was that 1 minute you're prepping Faf for his innings when he's opening the batting. And then the next minute, you'd be doing fielding practice with the guys from the UAE who weren't playing, and like it's all about keeping everyone motivated and keeping everyone together and feeling like a group, even though they're not playing. That was one of the nice learnings that I got from that tournament, based on obviously I haven't watched you at close quarters there.
Yeah, and making people feel valued. We all want to feel valued in whatever we do, and it's about how you make people feel. I really believe that, and you know. Some of those guys, the guys from UAE, this is massive for them. This is like a World Cup. So actually, they're going to be more nervous than you think. They're going to be a bit tense. They're going to be a bit, there's a crowd here. They're not used to playing in front of that many people. The TV's on non-stop. All these world-class stars. So actually, making them feel part of it, it's them, and enjoy it, and go and show them how good you are. And actually, it doesn't matter if you fail. Go and play. Go and be like a kid again. And that's when they're their true, authentic selves, that's when they're at the best. That's where we're all at our best.
Well, speaking about development then, and go back to Leicestershire now, like over the last few years, there's been a few good players that have come through at Leicestershire. I think, was it Rishi Patel got 4 tons last year? Rayan Ahmed, obviously, bowling for England in a test series in India. That's been quite cool to watch from afar. Can you talk to us, or talk to me and Dan, whoever, the listeners, a little bit about the inside of that journey, like your thoughts on it and the processes you went through to get some of these guys to where they were and how you helped them?
Well, Rishi Patel is a brilliant one actually, because we'd seen Rishi. I asked Dan about so many good young batters around the country. I saw Rishi I think he'd sent me a couple of text messages about his game. I looked at him and Dan said, look at this guy, Patel. I think he's got a really good opportunity of playing all formats and being dominant, because we had to make sure that we had players who could play multi-format. We only had Aaron Lilly, who'd been outstanding for us in white ball cricket, to go into a white ball format. And when really you need guys that you need a return on investment, as we've spoken about. So you need guys to play both formats, or all formats, even better. Then there's rest at the right time. So we got Rishi. Dan had done great numbers on Rishi. They dominated second team cricket. His boundary percentages were outstanding. The 6 hitting he could hit were terrific. So he was up there with anybody in the game. He wasn't playing in the second. He wasn't playing in a world class Essex winning team in the first team. So he had no opportunity. So to give him opportunity, we had to back him, believe in him. He was nowhere near fit enough. So we had to challenge him a lot with his fitness, with the fitness guys who were there at the time. I know Alex Carey, who's now in Bangladesh, under 19s. Alex did some great work with Rishi, from taking him shopping. I think he was taking him shopping, showing him what to buy with his food, with his money. And some of the work they did, I didn't believe that he held a bat. He'd be very honest. He needed to hold a bat more. He watched Graham Gooch as a youngster. Graham Gooch was a batting machine. And I've always liked selfish batters who love batting, because they bat and bat and bat till they don't get it wrong. And we challenged him on that. Rishi accepted the challenges, and through Dan's support and help, we signed him. We backed him a long time, even though he'd failed and struggled a bit early on in his career. We backed him and stayed with him and knew he would come good. And actually, he was unlucky not to get a Lions tour last year. I actually pushed him really hard to get a Lions tour. I spoke to the selectors and said, this kid's serious. He went away, worked on spin. He's a high-class player of spin as well. He wants to open the batting and bat up top and face the tough overs to make him a better player. So it's a really great success story all around, from Dan coming to me with a great young player that could do all formats, to the coach backing him, believing him, having some great conversations with him, to a team of people, the physios, the strength and conditioning coaches doing great programs. And then he comes out the other side, and now he's ready to play international cricket in the next few months.
I remember when we first got Rishi to Leicester. I think he was on like a 2-game loan at the end of the season, wasn't it? It was almost like a bit of a. Yeah. We looked at him, and he wanted to look at us, and it kind of like, yeah, that was how it went. And I think really quickly, you turned around to me and said, "This kid's serious. He could play for England." And I'm now it's really, even though neither of us are at the team anymore, I think it's really satisfying to see his progress and developing into like a serious all format cricketer now.
Yeah, it's like young Ben Mike today. What a great game is that? We talk about Leicester because it's where we came from in a way, Dan. Young Ben Mike, who we talked about Ben, and he's a great kid. He nearly never made it. He nearly never made it because he was late so many times in the academy. It was ridiculous to get there, and the academy director had a lot of discipline, and rightly so at that age. And he was keen to get rid of him. We gave him one more opportunity and made sure he put some alarms in his phone and made sure that he turned up at the right place at the right time, wearing the right things. And now he's had a really great game against Yorkshire, where he went to, where he should never have gone to in the first place, but he went there. We challenged him a lot, but he went there, and that's the way it is. And he's had a great game. He's got 90 and 4 wickets, and he started the season well, so it's time to build again. So delighted for Ben. I sent him a message last night, and he got back with great, because you spend so much time with these lads and you want them to do well, and that's the way it goes. That's the game.
Yeah, 100%. And you talked about Rayhan earlier as well. I mean, I remember one of the first things I did at Leicester was I did like an analysis of the squad and sort of gap analysis and where we needed to sort of recruit different areas of types of skill sets of players. And I remember one of the first things I said was to Nico, we haven't got Leggy. And he goes, don't worry, we got Rayan in the academy. He'll be us in. Yeah. And that was pretty true.
Yeah. Raheem, one of our coaches, he knew him well from Notts. He knew he wasn't happy. He was almost like another brother to him. Raheem was a guy that we employed to flick. He was a brilliant flicker, great knowledge of players, and a good coach, quite a quiet coach who would just give you a little word about somebody and never wasted his words. A very wise young man, and really enjoyed working with him. And he was instrumental for us to get Rehan to come and to be at Leicestershire and be in the academy, and then seeing him and meeting him in person, knowing his character, knowing how free he was in himself and how much self-belief he had in himself. He was a big match player, and he loved cricket. We actually had to tone him down because he played too much. He was playing club cricket, school cricket, second team cricket, first team cricket. He was like, Ray, stop playing the back garden, stop playing school cricket. You cannot do it. You're going to be worn out by the time you're 24. So it was about quality, not quantity. And he bought into that, which is great. And we backed him and believed in him. And that's what you've got to do to the right characters when they're ready.
Yeah. Final one from me then, Nico. What's next? Like where's the next stop on the journey?
Yeah, good question. Just come back from doing franchise, which I really enjoyed. County cricket at the moment, a lot of places have been filled, and that's the way that goes. So I don't think I'll be involved with county cricket unless maybe the odd team want a bit more individual coaching at the right times with people, whether it's keeping or a bit of batting. So I did a bit of work with Hampshire and enjoyed that last year. And and it was nice actually, the Leicester-Hampshire final, which was great for me, two clubs. And fair play to Hampshire, they were amazing. They went through with no overseas pros. They backed the youngsters, and actually to get through the final and do what they did was amazing. Absolutely amazing effort. So well done to them. And so I think franchise for this year, we'll see how it goes towards the end of the year. I'm involved with a few businesses as well, so enjoy that. A little bit of jet fuel at the moment and a bit of EN 590 diesel. Doing some commodities trading, which I enjoy. So putting people together. I've got a good black book of people in work and in business and in sports. So I've been speaking to guys out in Florida. The US Open's coming up in the not too distant future. There's tournaments in England happening with the Masters. There's Scotland end of the year. I've been speaking to an owner for that as well. So, listen, I'm keen to do some more work. I enjoy private coaching. I've just been doing a session tonight with a good youngster from Yorkshire, a good young keeper batsman. So I just want to keep involved with the game. I love it, and what will be. Cool,
Dan. Anything from you before we wrap up?
Just want to say thanks to Nico for coming on. I know it's been a little bit longer than we thought, but it's been hopefully really good content for everyone watching and listening. And just really grateful for your time, mate. Thank you so much. You're an absolute legend. And just look forward to working with Nico again, hopefully sometime in the very near future.
Pleasure, mate. Great to see you.
Yeah. Yes, brilliant. You too, mate.
You too.
Awesome. Yeah, just a reminder before we wrap up there, make sure you're clicking like and subscribe. Keep our audience building. If you enjoyed the conversation we just had, make sure you share it with a friend as well, or post it up on your socials. We do a show every Tuesday, and that will continue into the distant future. So make sure you're getting yourselves involved. Nick, I'd like to echo everything Dan just said. It's been a really, really fascinating conversation. Like I've got a lot of insight into the dynamics that exist between coaches and analysts. And you answered my question about what a head coach at a county team actually does. So I've definitely learned something from this. Thanks very much for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Sports Social Podcast Network.